what people might call a blanket on me here. Okay, how are we all doing out there in and out of YouTube and watching this in general on your iPad and your whatever pad? The Brains Wolf Boy here, or the Brains Wolf Man. Religion. Okay, I get. I suppose this is going to be very relative to anyone who's either going through the same thing or at the level of 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 potentially like maybe just okay. This could be very relative to anyone who's potentially kind of like halfway walking out of the church, or they're in church and trying to um, figure out why they went in the first place. This thing's for you. You know, the uh, the middle class people that not not really the middle class people, but just the folks, but just not really the middle class folks, but the folks that are like under that. You know, like mi- like mildly being like being pushed aside. You know, like of the world, and if not the world, uh, the system. You know, this is going up to you. Anybody who's like not really middle class, but like anyone who's like mildly pushed out of the way, if not just the world, then out of the system. Um, as for as far as going to church is concerned, or trying to fight, or trying to figure out if the church if the church or the religious life is for them. Me myself, me myself included. You know, so if this is very if this is related to you, then you can let me know either in the comment section or just in general. I got a firewall in here. I got a firewall in here every time I go live. So if anyone wants to say something or send one of these, you know, saying seeing a guy who doesn't seeing a guy, a dude who's really new, who's really had it with the church and doesn't really know how to do it. You know, like I yo I yo yo. I usually don't talk about church and religion in this channel. It's not a channel based on that, but there's something in that I thought I that amazes me about people. You know, like you, they go to church and they don't realize they're going in, but they find out later that maybe it was a bad idea. That maybe they feel like God isn't exactly um, directing them to go into church. You know, it's fair. That's fair. Like, like it's only fair, right? The church isn't for everyone. You know, Espe- especially the religiously, especially for the religiously blind. You know, which I started out from. I wasn't. I was very blind to religion, starting off as a kid. I didn't know. I didn't know I wasn't. But but the, but the thing is, I wasn't. I didn't know that I was religiously blind. I just knew I was being an ultra server or going to church. You know, now I barely go because, well, it's not like I don't have the time. I don't like. It's not like I don't have the time. I do have the time. It's just probably. It's just probably not the place I would see myself um finding God. You know, and it's not to say that I don't like, and it's not to say that going to church isn't relevant. It's not. It, and it's not to say that going to church isn't relevant. It's just who. How do I know with the big hamburger in the sky? God, do, um, how do I know? How do I know that going to church me- just might be one of those bad decisions, like and only, but it's in disguise as a good decision. Like the church, the church doesn't exactly know how to talk to people. You know, it, it like I mean, it knows how to reach out to people, but it might not know how to talk to people. Like reaching out. The church is good for that. It's good. The church, the church is amazing to reach out to people, but how is it at talking with people? You know, you you ask a question about religion or whatever, and it's like you only get a half an answer. We're only going to church and learning about God when we ought to be uh, doing the opposite, maybe. Like enough of the history class, okay? Enough of the history class. We don't know everything about what the Lord does. And before this gets any more, you know, I'm not trying to preach the word in here. I'm just trying to put it down straight that, that like I'm not trying to come in here and be a Bing Crosby type. I all I'm trying to do is maybe set some people straight, including setting myself straight about rather than not if the church is is a relevant move to make. Like it's a good move to make. It's a very good move to make, but is it a relevant move to make? You know, and that's what I'm trying to help break down the monotony. The history lessons of I'm trying to break down the history of who God is and and discover along with you if God is way more defined than that. And I guess the thing is isn't. And it do you have that? Wait. Sorry about that. In terms of getting too preachy in here, uh, I if I want to get a little less preachy in here, I'll have my mom come in and and, and interact. Anyway, my mom's cool. My mom's cool, but you know who else is really cool? I mean, you people. You people are really cool, and and I want to pick, and I'm already there, but I want to break down the monotony. So when you get to the point where I'm at, in that in finding yourselves that maybe the church isn't for you, uh, or like for some maybe like a hard to articulate kind of way, like it's bad, it's good to know that maybe the church has its own set of regulations, and it's not including, and it's not really including you. You know, like have you ever have you ever tried asking the priest in your church where if um pardon me if religion if religion saves people versus confused people. Like I, I, I I'm pretty sure the priest in your neighborhood is going to be like, um, have you prayed about it? Like that is so the most ridiculous answer the priest can give you. Have you prayed about it? No, of course you can pray about it, but that's only one part of the deal. You know, when you have questions, the priest can't answer them. Not really because he can't answer them. He could if he got more information, but at that time he didn't know how to come back with the answer. Maybe he had one, but maybe he had the answer, but he was a little too afraid of the question. Like stuff like this, stuff like that. There's stuff like that. There's always questions the priest doesn't even want to answer, let alone deal with. And and that's kind of like one of them, right? Like Tixie, like the church was built long before people came in with hammers and and uh, and shovels and stuff. Like I mean, where's the common didn't dig into? Like I'm pretty sure, without really like thinking, like it takes a great deal of thinking to get to the to get to the it takes a pretty it takes thinking to it takes a lot of thinking and a lot of like a more emotional work to fig, to figure out that maybe and to find out the church might not be the move you want to make. Not because you didn't, you know. I'm pretty sure that if you talk to any priest, they'll give you at least a 30% answer, and that's that. And that's not, and that's not exactly what you're looking for. You want a priest that knows how to answer your questions, to at least the 80 mark. At the 30 mark, you know, they couldn't. And it's not that the priest doesn't want to answer your questions. There, there's a certain bunch of questions that even the priest would be terrified of and doesn't want to answer to. As brilliant as that fella is, as brilliant as the fella is, there are questions that even he can't answer. That only, you know, the big hammer in the sky can answer. So like, like I mean, so much for politics and church, right? So, like I mean, so much for. It's like if you mix politics with religion, you get nothing, right? But if you mix religion with something, it's like mixing religion and politics together. First of all, first of all, why would you do that? There's something that ought to be sacred, right? Where, since when does the church become the politics hall? It does. Oh, that's right. It isn't the politics hall. It's it's a place of religious defilement. It's a place of holy cleansing. Okay, anything like politics doesn't belong in the church because politics are very, often at times dirty and almost filthy. And you got the nerve, and someone had the nerve to put that in church, like smack me in the back of the head, man. Like, what? Like, what? Either do your politics outside of, like, and I'm not saying I'm a fan of politics either, but Willem there, like, religion is just a blind mind friend to who and what God really is. It's got nothing like if you really want to do something, you know, like people. Like I mean, I know now the church isn't for me because well that's all because that's very narrow thinking. The church is built, or at least the church in these days is based on is built on narrow thinking, and I don't narrow think anything. You know, I want to talk about it. I've got questions, and you know, this this is important to me. Apparently, like, oh, and if anybody's confused, this is water and lemon juice. Um, I'm not drinking rat poison. I am not drinking rat poison. It might look like rat poison, but it's not. It's water and lemon juice. Anyway, religion is a blind sight, you know, and we're all in it. We're all in it, and one third, and almost everything of it isn't really God's, like, quote unquote, uh, you know, if you have a relationship with God, you don't have to go to church every day. You know, it's like, like, fine if you don't, like, it's fine if you do, but that's not really, you know, we're all going to the same place after we're dead, and there's going to be at least 3 books, maybe 4, in heaven, and we gotta be able to know what we're doing down here long before we climb up the, you know, long, long before we start climbing up any golden rope, or before the man, or before Jesus comes back and brings us home, right? And by the time he does die, we're all gonna be dead anyway. You know, like, I'm not saying I'm not saying Jesus couldn't come somewhere in the middle of that, I'm not. Maybe like I wouldn't be surprised if he's on his way down here now. It's just taking him a long time. It's just taking him a really long time to bring, you know, to gather up all the troops, all the angels, and 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 prepare everything and then come down. Be, but in that time, we got to be like open to things. We got to be open to maybe saying no to the church and saying yes to actual relationships with people. You know, like the church, the church has already let you down. I'm not saying it's let you down, in ways that might be more, uh, like. And if anybody is offended by this, viewers beware. Just let me know. Just let me know, and I'll sanitize my language. Just let me know, and I'll sanitize it down a little. But, 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 the church has its own regulations, and God Himself, sorry, God Himself up there has His own set of regulations, and we need to abide by that more than abide, you know, the certain church folk that might only get so far with it, and then find out that the church is not for them. Like have you ever been unaware of that? Like have you ever been caught with your pants down like that? It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing, isn't it? You know, to only get halfway and then you find out, oh, maybe the church isn't for me, right? It doesn't mean that the church is going to go up in flames. It doesn't mean that you're going to go up in flames. It just means you're making the choice of walking out of there. You know, you're going to hell. That you will not be going. That you will not be going to hell if you decide that you will not be going to hell if you decide the church isn't for you. You know, if you woke up the next day from now and said, you know, maybe the church isn't for me. You know, maybe what I thought yesterday is different. Is going to be different. Maybe the way I was thinking yesterday is going to be different from where I'm going to be thinking the next day. Like I need to not be like you need to be sensitive to that. Maybe just maybe the church isn't for you, but you're deciding to not go to church, not based on, oh, I gotta go to church, or I'm going to hell. Yeah, no, no, come on. You are not going to hell if you don't go to church. It is a choice you're making. It is a choice you're making in life to figure it. Like, oh, I better go to church, or I might go to hell if I don't go to church. No, no. You think? Don't think like that. Don't think like that. That if you miss church once, you're going straight to hell after you're dead. Do not think like that. You are intelligent people. You should know how to navigate your choices in life. And driving the car of your. You should be like when someone says, "I better go to church," and if I miss just once, and if I miss going to church once, I'm going straight to hell after I'm dead. Yeah, no, no, don't think like that. When you think like that, then everyone else around you's gonna have to think like that. Like if you find the church is not for you, then that's okay. It's totally cool to miss that day of church if you feel you're being somewhat centered into thinking that just maybe, you know, like God did not tell you to go to church or else. He just told you to go to church. Like God Himself said, you didn't. God Himself did not say go to church or else. He didn't say that. He's a loving, compassionate, and forgiving God. You know who cares about us and cares about our souls. We, you know, and He doesn't. It's not that He doesn't care of how much we go to church. He cares, but He's giving you free will to decide if you really are church oriented, or to decide that if you're not church oriented. You know, like the sky's not gonna fall if you decide not to go to church. How like who thought that was a good idea? Like the sky's gonna fall just because one guy didn't because one group of people didn't go to church? Like I mean that's not right. The church wasn't built like that. And God gives us gives all of us a free will. Rather, we go to church 5 times a day, 5 days in a row, or not at all. You know, that's our choice. It's a choice of free will. It's a choice of decision making. Like, okay, I'll go to church this Sunday, and then I'll go to church that Sunday, and I'll miss the third Sunday. You know, this that's bad. That's really good navigating. That's really good, really fantastic navigating. You know, you're deciding that okay, I'm going to church 2 Sundays in a row, and I'm not going to church the third Sunday. You know, that's good navigating. You're navigating around how many times you're navigating the traffic in your mind. You are navigating how you're going to do this. You know, that's not navigating. That's good navigating. In fact, that's really good navigating to navigate when you're going to church and when you're not going to church. That's really good navigating on your part because if you decide to go to church 3 Sundays and then the fourth Sunday comes and you'd rather just stay home, that is not only your free will, that is a choice based on free will that you've made. You know, like it isn't rocket science. If you feel the church is not for you, then that shouldn't then that should be a given. You know, like God or Jesus isn't going to tell you that you're going to hell just because you didn't go to church once. If you decide not to go to church once, then it's not the sky falling down thing. You know, if you feel the church is not for you, and it really isn't for you, just you know put it out there. The church is not for me. If it's for someone else, that's for you to decide. You know, and if someone else says, no, I love the Lord. I'm going to church. that's fine if you love God and you want to go to church to support that. But it shouldn't be like it should not be the runner of your whole existence. You know, it it should not be the runner of your whole existence. Rather not you went to church. You know, it should be on the side. It should be in your radar, but it shouldn't be the first thing you think of. You know, it should be like maybe the second or third thing on your mind. You know, like to ease to ease the tension. That's all I'm getting at here. It shouldn't just be the first thing on your mind, and you shouldn't be running around, you know, creating havoc and chaos just because you missed one time going. It does not mean that. It does not mean you're going to hell if you miss going to church once. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean any of that. It just means if you miss going to church once, it's like slipping on a banana peel. You slip on a banana peel once, and then you learn that maybe you should not. And then you learn that you should watch your step a bit more often. You know, that's what this is. That's what this is. You know, it's not. If you slip on a banana peel and you go flying and you fall down, you know, that's what I'm talking about. I'm just using the church as that banana peel. You know, like you slip on the banana peel, you fall down, and gravity pulls you down. You get up, shake the stink off the banana peel, shake the banana flavored stink off your behind, and get up and be like, okay, yep, I learned my lesson. You know, I gotta watch where I walk next time. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. You know, like just watching how many, you know, like I'm not telling you to not go to church. It's relevant if you do. It's also relevant if you meet it halfway. You know, like I'm going to church every Sunday this month, and I'm not going to church every, and then the, and then I'm not like I'm going to church every Sunday this month. Next month, I'm not going to. You know, this that that's really good navigating. You know, you're navigating, and you know you're roller skating around this religious field, and you're just taking certain, you know, like you're going to church every Sunday in that one month, and then the second month comes up and they don't go at all. You know, that's what I'm talking about, people. You know, I am not trying to confuse you. I am not trying to mix like a Bing Crosby figure. I'm just letting you know straight up that it's okay to miss going to church. It's okay if you if you're not church material. You know, and it's definitely not. And it is definitely cool. It is definitely cool if the church is nowhere in your radar. You know, the fact that there is a church, the fact that there is a church that you could go to sounds very convenient. Sounds really good. You know, you can go there if you want to. It's built for just the church is built for just that. You know, the church is built for just that. It's not supposed to be something you do like a chore. That wouldn't be fair. But if you take a, but if you're really following God, following Jesus, you you'll at least go to church or something like that. Uh, you know, for one whole, like if you're really a follower of Jesus or whatever like that, you would navigate and drive the car which is your decision making. You know, you're making a decision. You're not coming down like, you know, you're not coming down like a lightning bolt and saying, I hate the church. I'm not going to church anymore because I just downright hate it. No, 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 that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, you know, being aware of signs that maybe you. I'm talking about looking at signs that declares you as being church oriented, or you're in church and you want to come out of it. Not necessarily to, you know, walk away from it all, but like you want to have like you want to have a much more closer glance at the look of your relationship with Jesus. You know, that's what I'm talking about. That right there is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, you know, I'm talking about honoring at least the Jesus Christ system. You know, like you live every day like it's your last day on earth, and you go to work, or you put things together, and you create things with your mind and with your hands, and you try to make, and you try to do, you know, the honorable thing, make a lot of, have a lot of relationships, um, uh, feed the poor, uh, donate to the poor, uh, give someone a cup of water from the Hortons, you know, or hug someone. Uh, you know, if they didn't know they needed it at the time, you know, that's what I'm talking about, and that's what God is talking about. You know, being there for someone when they didn't ask you to be there, actually having the brain cells to be like, okay, okay, I'm not going to church, but 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 I want to keep my relationship alive and active with God. So I'll do things to reflect on that. I will do things to reflect that. Feed the poor, feed the hungry, give someone a hug if they give someone a hug at the time they might give someone a hug if they didn't know they need. You know, give someone a hug if they didn't know they needed it at the time. You know, like or giving your shirt, or giving like a box of some of your clothes to give to the poor, you know, or if you belong to the church in some way, uh, maybe go in there to mop, to like, you know, mop the floors of the church, uh, uh, you know, and be of service and guide in that direction. You know, it's not going to church, but you being more active with that relationship with God. You know, you're you're building relationships. You're ex- you're building relationships. You're helping the poor. You're you're donating as much as possible. You're doing. You know, you might not be going to the bank. You might slow down your visit to the bank to take out your money. You know, like you know, stuff like that. I'm not talking about cutting it off. You know, I'm not talking about how, you know, like I'm not a big project figure. I'm just saying, like, you know, maybe, you know, just maybe, you know, just maybe you're not church oriented, and just maybe you're in church, and you want to get closer to God, and you don't want to hear things about Him. You actually want to do things instead, you know, and 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 I'm not saying you're going to go up and down the hills preaching to the sky, preaching to the, you know, preaching to the sky. You know, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that maybe, you know, if you go to church less, and do things that reflects your relationship with God. You know, like I mean, there's think about it. You know, I'm not trying to preach here on purpose. I'm just trying to give you more of of a well grounded idea that maybe the church just might not be for you, and that's all right if it isn't for you. You can don't you can do things. You can do things instead. If the church is not for you, you can always do stuff instead that brings that out of you. You know that you know helping the poor, um, giving somebody one of the three coaches you have, uh, building relationships, uh, and you know, bottom line, if the church isn't for you, then just don't be afraid to put your foot down and say the church is not for me. You know, that's all I'm talking about. You don't have to do this and that. If you know the church isn't for you, it's not because you're smarter than anyone else. You're you just want to do more than just sitting in the pew, taking on the history lesson of who God is, and do things outside the. You know, you can do whatever the heck you want with that. But if you, God, the big hamburger in the sky, will, you know, direct you in the way you're going, and like who knows, right? Maybe the church isn't for you, but it's for someone else, right? Like have you ever thought of that? I'm just wondering if you thought of that. Maybe the church is not for you, but the church is for someone else. Like that is totally relevant. That is very good to know. That if it's not for you, the church I mean, and it's for someone else, then they can go. You know, it's this whole like I gave up on the church a long time ago myself personally. I didn't give up on God so much. I just knew the church wasn't you know like the church like and I am not sorry about this. I am not sorry about my decision about walking out about feeling like I don't belong in the church anymore. Of course I belong there. But just because I belong there doesn't mean that maybe I'm done with it. I'm done going to church. I'm done taking in the history lesson about God. You know, like this is nuts. Like the church now, I realize it's not to me anymore. Not to be the ringleader and tell people they shouldn't go. I'm just saying. ah, all I'm saying is the church isn't for everyone. It's not. You know, it's not. The church is not for everyone. It's for anyone who like why am I having to say like why am I explaining this? Like you're smart. If the church isn't for you, just say it. You know what? The church might not be for me after all. You know, and that's it. And God will be totally fine God is totally fine with what you do on this planet, as long as you obey, as long as you stick, as long as you are having principles around the Ten Commandments, and and reading the Bible, or reading the Bible is not your thing, which you know uh, again, it's up to you if you're Bible oriented too, but I'm just putting it out there, like, you don't have to pick up the Bible because someone said pick up the Bible. You don't have to go to church because someone said go to church. You have freedom of choice. You have freedom of free. You have free will. God gave us that. God gave us free will to decide on what we're meant for and what we're not meant for. Specifically the church I'm talking about here. Not everyone is church oriented. Not everyone uh, goes to church, and not everyone does the same thing. You know, I mean, if they got a connection with God in some other way, and if someone has a connection with God and they don't go to church and they don't read the Bible, at least they can help other people. Which is the closer, well, which would be a more closer to God than you think, because you could learn about God all you want in church, but you know, if the student isn't if the student isn't school material, um, it may be best if the teacher didn't teach that kid. So you know, if you're not, you know, if the student feels like they're not ready for school, or is not, like, if the student feels like maybe going to school, like, if the teacher, if the student feels like school is not for them, uh, should the teacher come out of the blue and teach that kid anyway? Same thing with the priest and same thing with the priest and the church. If you feel the church is not for you, should the priest pray over you? Right? I mean, the priest can pray over you too. I'm not saying he can't, but if you don't feel like God is moving you in that direction, just be maybe, just maybe, God is directing you in a direction that doesn't involve the church, but it involves being among people. It involves being fishers of men. Being fishers of people. You know, and at the end of the day, that should matter. And at the end of the day, that should be more important. Not how many times you go to church, but are you fishing? Are you, are you truly a fisherman, right? Or a fisher woman? You know, are you going to are you fishing out? Are you going to cast your fishing hook to the church? Like I'm like like I'm just wondering. You can answer this if you have the answer to this. Um, when Jesus was in that boat with all the fisher people, you know, because they were up all night trying to get the fish, but it just wasn't there. And then Jesus does something. He speaks to the sky. He speaks to the water. The captain nets, and every fish in like 100-mile stretch all end up in the net at the same time. I mean, wow, but that was fish. That was fish. What Jesus said after that is way more profound and was more bang on to what they weren't doing. He said, I'm going to make I'm going to make you fishers of men. Meaning, I want you to be bringing in people instead of fish. And that's what that's about. The first relationships with people, That's what that's what that Meredith that's what Jesus was going for. They caught the fish because he was there, but it wasn't about fish so much. It was about making relationships with people and drawing them in. Drawing not the fish in, which was, you know, the fish was the fish. What Jesus actually said was, or if I'm not being on exactly, he said, I will make you fishers of men. Meaning he wanted to populate the world with people, you know, and people becoming friends with people. That's what Jesus was going for. And of course they really didn't get it. They really didn't get it the first time, but they learned to get it. That, hey, wait a minute, we can fish for fish until we're blue in the face, but what we really ought to be doing is fishing for people, building relationships. And that's what we're talking about. And this video is probably up past the 60 mark. So, yeah, so I know this was a long, 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 long video, but whether it's a long video, rather it's a long, rather it's a long video or not, it's a good point, you know, it's a damn good point to like if Jesus said, I will make you fishers of men, and I prefer you making friends, and I prefer you making friends with people instead of just fish. Uh, we should be doing that now. We should be putting down the fishing hooks and going to build relationships instead of just accepting what we got. And so it's a damn good point. You know, Jesus said to the guys in the boat, I will make you fishers of men. Meaning, um, I want you to go fishing and bring in some friends that are people. Why not? It sounds like a great idea, and Jesus is bang on. When he says this. So why is that anywhere different now? We don't need to specifically go to church and end it with that. We need to go out there and we don't have to conquer the world. We don't have to conquer the world so much, but we at least need to cast our fishing hooks to the people and make relationships and try to help one another as best we can, and do that. So now this video is at 54:06:07:08, and I'm getting hot in here, and it's not because it's hot in this room. It's getting hot in here, not because the room's getting hot, but because I guess I guess I'm on fire for the Lord, I guess. Anyway, without making okay, I think I binged Crosby to you enough. So without okay, I guess I binged Crosby to you enough, and I'll get back to you whenever I make something else. Yeah. So, oh boy, oh. So I guess I've been crossed. I guess I made like been. I guess I've been crossed with you enough. But you get my, but but you get the point, right? Like the church might not be for you, and that's fine. It's fine if you feel that the church might not be for you. Just, just because it's not for you personally doesn't mean it can't be for someone else personally. So having said that, um, I'm going to walk out of the topic. So having said that and done that, and have been to communion there, uh, so having said that and done that and gone to communion and that, um, I'll talk to you later. I'll talk to you on the flip side, and this is a good time, and this would be a good place to put this. Yeah, I'll talk to you later. I'll talk to you on the flip side, and I will most indubitably, most indubitably, most indubitably talk to you on the flip side.